This portion of CardioSource Video News is supported by the makers of Xarelto.
Welcome to ACC.12. I'm Dr. Randy Martin with CardioSource Video News. And you know that one of the more interesting trials really had to do with a natural randomized trial of long-term lowering of LDL. And to explain that trial is the lead author, Dr. Brian Ferentz from Wayne State University School of Medicine. Brian, thanks for joining me.
Thank you
so
very
tell
much
me a little bit about it. It's a fascinating trial.
Oh, thank you. By way of background, multiple randomized trials have demonstrated that lowering LDL cholesterol with a statin reduces the risk of major coronary events, but persons being treated with a statin still experience a significant residual risk of events. And what's interesting about the statin trials is that the mean age at the time of randomization is 63.
Right.
So which means that persons in those trials have already been exposed to a lifetime of LDL and have developed some underlying atherosclerotic burden. Because coronary disease is a chronic progressive disease that begins very early in life and then develops slowly over several decades' time before becoming clinically manifest, we aim to test the hypothesis that lowering LDL cholesterol much earlier in life, before the development of atherosclerosis, could either prevent or substantially delay the progression of atherosclerosis and thereby significantly improve the risk, the benefit of therapies that lower LDL cholesterol.
But you're talking about lowering it naturally, not
right.
with pharmacokinetics.
Exactly. So the ideal way to test that hypothesis would be with a randomized trial, but unfortunately the cost and logistical complexity of following a very large number of young people forward is prohibitive. So as an alternative, we relied on the principle of Mendelian Randomization to conduct a series of natural randomized trials to estimate the benefit of lowering LDL beginning early in life.
Explain to me and the viewers what Mendelian randomization is.
So multiple polymorphisms are known to be associated with small differences in LDL.
Right.
And each of those polymorphisms is allocated randomly at the time of conception. So inheriting an allele that's associated with a lower LDL is analogous to being randomly allocated to a treatment that lowers LDL beginning at birth, and by contrast, inheriting the other allele is analogous to being randomized to usual care. So comparing the risk of coronary disease among persons with and without such a polymorphism should be analogous to a randomized trial.
Excellent explanation. What did you all find?
Well, we found, we evaluated 9 SNPs in 6 different genes, specifically to look for some consistency of effect. And what we found is that the effect per unit lower LDL cholesterol on the risk of coronary disease was essentially the same for all of those, which would imply that the benefit of long-term reductions in LDL is largely independent of the mechanism by which LDL is lowered. And what we found is that for each unit, prolonged exposure to lower LDL beginning early in life is associated with a 3-fold greater benefit for each unit lower LDL than treatment with a statin started later in life.
That's pretty dramatic, isn't it?
And it may suggest that, it may explain some of the residual risk among persons being treated with a statin, because if they have been exposed to LDL for the whole of their lifetimes and developed an atherosclerotic burden, even intensive LDL lowering at that point may merely serve to stabilize the plaque or minimally regress it, but that plaque can still disrupt and cause symptoms or events. By contrast, if we begin to lower LDL much earlier, we may actually be able to prevent the development of atherosclerosis, or at least substantially delay its progress, and that should translate, and appears to translate, into a somewhat more dramatic clinical benefit.
In just a moment, we've got till we have to close this because it's really, really interesting. Does this have implications for early treatment of elevated LDL in kids or teens?
That's really important because we evaluated 9 SNPs in 6 different genes, each of which lower or affect LDL by a different mechanism, and the effect was the same among all of those. It implies that the mechanism by which we lower LDL is independent of the benefit. And that would suggest that diet and exercise are probably as effective as statins or other medicines when started early in life and when measured per unit lower LDL. But I think as a larger implication, the dramatic potential reduction in risk by keeping one's LDL low the whole of one's lifetime should provide new emphasis to sort of encourage healthy diet and lifestyle and awareness of LDL cholesterol levels in children and young people, so that they can take reasonable steps to keep their LDL low.
So nothing trumps healthy lifestyle.
Right, exactly.
Brian, great research and very interesting and great explanation. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us too. And We want you to stay tuned because we'll have a lot more from ACC 12.